Hey, hey, hey. So, I want to have a little vulnerable moment with you. So, I'm putting that out in the world only because I really want to share what really triggered me to work on changing my mindset because I knew that there was something wrong, right? Why I decided to change my mindset and just a few things on how I did that. So, I will never forget. It was, first of all, let's just say the year prior, I had an extremely bad year financially. Like it just was so many different things happening with my finances, and I did not understand. I am a believer of Jesus Christ. So I was even questioning him, like, okay, I don't get this. This doesn't make sense. Like, if I'm your daughter, why am I going through this? Da da da, right? And then the following year, I'll say like the first 6 months was still a very heavy transition. In hindsight, when I look at it, I understand why I went through such a long season for many, many, many different reasons, right? So anyways, a friend and I'm working on a book, like a paperback book, and I share this like in the first like introduction part. But a friend, me and my friend, so she's generous, right? And so she wanted to go to, I live in California, so she wanted to go to Vegas to see this podcast in person. And she bought the ticket, she paid for the hotel. She's just generous like that, right? In advance. I'm excited about it. Yeah, looking forward to it. Haven't been to Vegas in so long. Where I live, I can get to Vegas in 5 hours, right? Um, but during that time, once that time came around, my life was in shambles. Um, during that time. Like even now, when I look back at some of my pictures, I'm like, dang, like I could just tell I didn't have that glow, you know? Like I just look broke. I just look broke down like an M16. Like it was just wasn't good. So when the time came, I'm gonna be completely honest with you. I didn't want to go. But I am a woman of my word. I understand that she put her money into it. But had I paid for it, I would have been like, sorry, girl, not going. You can pick somebody else to go with you. But I didn't have the mental capacity to go knowing that my finances were all jacked up. I can't spend the way that I spend, all of the things. We go to Vegas, I made the best of it. And then I just remember on the way back, it was a terrible rainstorm. And she drove my car and I didn't drive, but I remember being a terrible rainstorm and I was so anxious. Like my stomach was almost upset because of the rain. And then like I was broke and I was going back home, like having I can't get this. It was just bad, right? I remember asking her questions like, how do people do this and that, like entrepreneur questions. And she's telling me, and I'm like, kind of making a mental note of these are different things that I can do to make money. However, I didn't even have a mindset for it, right? Boom. So it was at that moment, like that time where I was like, this is it. I cannot live like this anymore. I know this is not the life that, like, I know my life is supposed to be prosperous. I'm supposed to be financially blessed. I am a lender, not a borrower. All of those things, right? So finally, I actually ended up moving to a new place. And I was like, this move, I'm changing everything. I changed my diet, and I would call it pescatarian, even though that's like a religious thing, but it wasn't a religious thing. Like so basically just like whole foods, got rid of all of the processed foods and like seafood, right? And I didn't crave any of the things until maybe like 8 weeks later. So I changed my diet. What I noticed after changing my diet is my brain, like I had so much clarity. It was almost like my thinking was different. I can't really explain it. I felt great. Like my body felt like I was a teeny bopper again, right? I had like natural energy. And I remind you, I wasn't working out then because I wasn't disciplined enough to work out. When I ate, I didn't feel full, what we call the itis. The itis is not a good thing, but I wasn't experiencing anything. And then I started to read different things on mindset. I read Rich Dad Poor Dad over again by Robert Kiyosaki. Just read all of the books where I know that I could learn knowledge about finance and mindset and all that. changed my whole algorithm, mindset, business, finance, and of course, like sermons and things like that. And that's when I learned about neuroplasticity, how you actually can rewire your brain. Like you can change your thinking. It's a process, it takes time, right? But I started researching that and I was like, hey, I can do this, right? Because I know I have a drive, I know I have an ambition, but I, at the time, was a super procrastinator. And I'm sure there's somebody watching that may be a super procrastinator. I had no problem with starting something, but I would not finish. I was wondering, why would I do that, right? I'm excited and I never finish. I say tomorrow and then, how that goes. So I started with the little bitty things. My diet, I stopped watching trash, which is also your mental diet. I stopped listening to trash, the music. Now, don't get me wrong. I'll still turn up in the car, you know what I mean? But like, I just try to keep a clear, peaceful mind, positive mind, listen to podcasts and stuff like that in the car, things I can learn from. And I just started to follow the steps of the things that I learned of literally changing your everyday activities. I wasn't a person who made my bed. I just get up and go because I'm already sleeping in, right? I started making my bed. I started um, keeping my promises to myself. When I didn't feel like doing something, I would do it anyways. I would force myself to do it. Simple tasks. You know how you're at home and you're just like, oh, I don't want to. I started to force myself with the little tiny disciplines, and those tiny disciplines became big disciplines. And the more and more I changed my everyday activity, I got rid of the noise, I got rid of the drama, I got rid of the unnecessary stuff, right? Because they say your net worth is your net worth, right? And so it's like I am still in a season of locked in. I'm still locked in with a little bit more flexibility, but it's like you don't want to be around people even though you love them. They're like, y'all just broke together and ain't nobody coming up with no ideas and no solutions. You know what I mean? Like it's not worth it. So before I knew it, I want to say month 4 is when I realized something had changed in my mind.